Once again, welcome to all the participants. I can see some of you have been repeatedly coming to most of the PMA events. So that's a great testimony to PMA. I also thank Pradeep ji, Prashant Poon, Dattatreya Ambulkar sir for giving me this opportunity to share my views, experience, whatever you want to call it, on today's topic. Today's webinar that we are going to have, I think I have content for nearly about 40-45 minutes, and then we'll of course take some questions towards the end. Today's webinar is like you can see on the screen, is organized by the Center of Excellence for Entrepreneurship Development, which is one of the empowered committee of PMA jointly with PDPC. Today we are going to talk about making it happen and working with targets. The title might look very catchy, and I will also try to make my talk a little bit more catchy with it. So let's begin with it. When we talk about the targets or the goals, alternatively, these targets or the goals are interchangeable terms. But when we talk about the goals, typically, we have goals in many different areas of our life, many different facets. We have our own personal life, we also have our profession or our career, or maybe somebody who's running the business. We all have different goals. There are some typical goals that people do set at least once in their lifetime, and maybe sometimes multiple times. I'm just reading out those goals, and I'm sure those goals are going to bring a little bit of smile on your face, because I'm sure at least 3 or 4 of them is something that you might have thought of earlier. You may have achieved it, and if you have achieved it, my big congratulations to you. But if you have not achieved it, let's try to look at it in today's session. How can we go about it? So those goals are like, one of the most favorite goals that people take up is about losing weight or something related to the fitness. So that's a personal goal or a life goal. Sometimes on the way we have picked up some bad habits like smoking or drinking. So maybe we also have set target to quit that bad habit. Sometimes we have a relationship issue, so we probably have taken up a goal to fix a relationship issue. We of course all need shelter, even though we may have one, or maybe our parents have gifted one, but we all have a dream to either buy a home or a bungalow, or maybe a nice property somewhere, or even sometimes selling a property. That also could be one of the goals. Sometimes when we were growing up, many of us probably we targeted to complete our masters or completing our doctorate, obtaining some certification for our professional enhancement. Sometimes we take up goals like creating a surplus wealth or even starting a new business. I'm sure many of you who are still in active employment career, probably these thought comes across their mind at least once in a year. चल यार कुछ बिजनेस करते हैं, एंड वन ऑफ द मोस्ट easy thing that people think is एक restaurant खोलते हैं, those kind of goals. But did it really happen? Probably not. Sometimes we also take up a goal like going on a dream vacation, maybe some exotic location, maybe some place that you have really heard of, or maybe you have seen pictures or videos of that, and you have really determined that one day I'm going to make it. But do you really make it? Sometimes we also have goals like completing or reading a book of your choice, or even better goal is writing a book. But does it really happen in our life? Most of the times I think we fizzle out. We all set the goals, we all set the targets which are kind of worked under a framework. I'm not going to talk about the SMART goals and stuff, but we all have planned that, but unfortunately for variety of reasons it does not happen. So today we are going to throw some light on how can we make it happen and how can we work really with our targets. All right, so ready to start this journey with me? So first disclaimer, this session is not about how to set goals or targets, because you have tons of material available both online as well as in a printed version, or maybe there are some trainers who can really give fantastic training on how to set a goal or set the targets. But this session is not about that. This session is also not about giving you any kind of injection of motivation on how to achieve goals. we are not going to talk about any motivational stories, or we are not even going to talk about stories of some of the successful people, how they have achieved or how they did it in their life. We are plainly going to focus on practical and implementable method to make it happen and working with targets. Okay, so talking about those goals that I listed out, right from losing the weight or working on your fitness to fixing relationship issues to write a book, if you have given up, and if you are one of those, or if you have seen people, people who in your knowledge, if they have given up, let's try to look at why they have given up. So here is kind of journey that they start, but what happens is they have set the goal, but they have not really taken into account the adequacy part of it, or in other words, they are completely inadequate about the resources that they have, whether it is financial resources or it is related to their skills, related to the available time, because everybody, each one of us are living multiple lives. We of course have primarily two lives, one is personal or family life and another is professional life. But apart from within this personal and professional life, we have tons of other things to do, we have tons of other things to achieve also, and that's why the time factor comes in picture. So while setting the target, probably people have not taken into account the available time to them, and that becomes their inadequacy, and that contributes to their giving up. We make big promises, but we are lacking discipline, which is if you are lacking the discipline, obviously you have tendency to go back to what you think is very convenient and comfortable life. It's like anybody who has picked up going to the gym, and those who are present today, and if you are still going to the gym and still hitting the gym every day, my big congratulations to you. But I am talking about the people who really give up early enough. They probably start developing some notions about, oh, this is not for me, or it is aching me, or it's really hurting me, this is something that I cannot do, because what you are doing at the back of your mind is you are always going back to, or you are pulled back by your comfort zone, and that happens because of your weak commitment. There is a difference between promise and a commitment. Promise is something that you give to somebody, that I'll do this or I'll achieve that, but commitment is something which is required every minute, every second, and if you are lacking on that, probably that is one of the major contributor why you give up. Once you start the journey, over a period of time, you start thinking, oh, it looks like an uphill, it's like a mountain like target, and probably I have set up too big of a target and something that I cannot achieve. It may not really look worth wherever you are in your journey. When you start your transit from let's say day 1 or ground zero, but after traveling for certain distance or after making some little progress, you start realizing that this is an uphill or mountain like target and something that I cannot achieve it. Sometimes you also start telling yourself, or try hard to convince yourself to the core that this is something which is not for me, and that's where you start losing the motivation. You miss the quantifiable progress. The target achieving definitely requires this. If you are not seeing some early signs of success, you have not tested the success early enough, that probably is of course denting your motivation, but also you tend to lose the patience and you start doubting your own capability. Your self-belief starts deteriorating and you tend to give up. So it is very important to have early sign of some success, measurable result, which will keep you motivated. But if it is missing in your journey, then of course people give up. And sometimes in some of the cases, for example, losing the weight, if you start one day and if you are following a certain diet plan or you are following certain exercise regime, but if it does not show up on your body, or if you don't feel any different, let's say in about 15-20 days, maybe you start fizzling out because you are not able to see or measure the progress, and then you start doubting that diet plan given by your nutritionist or the fitness regime that you are going through is coached or trained by the fitness trainer in the gym. So this is something that happens. in absence of quantifiable progress, people have tendency to give up. And then of course distractions, these are the major sources of people giving up. Once you set a target, then probably you are not focused enough on your target, or not focused on enough on the actions that you need to take, and that is where you start looking sideways. And when I say sideways, you basically start looking at other things, and obviously those other things, because they are in your near horizon, it starts looking very easy to you. Sometimes they are very attractive, and you think, oh, this is something that I can achieve very fast, so give up on that target and let me go other direction. And that's how you deviate and you distract. So the presence of distractions in the process of or in the journey of achieving your target is something which is causing people to give up early.